Andrij Dobriansky is the Director of Communications, Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Welcome back. You like it? I mean, so far, so good in my conversations about this the last couple of days.
It's a win-win. That's what everybody's saying in Ukraine, in Europe. I'm sure there's a lot of European countries that are kind of jealous of the fact that the United States jumped on this opportunity, knowing that, like you said, extraction's still a while away. But getting this locked up means that the United States is firm for the next couple of decades.
Yep.
They know where their earth minerals are coming.
So let's talk about that negotiated, how you got to give and take when you're negotiating anything, right? So from Ukraine, one, the security guarantee. It's not how it's worded, apparently. But also, the U.S. at first, apparently the talk was, well, we want to make this into a loan that you have to pay back of the money that was already given. And that's not in it, right?
That's
so that, I mean, that would have been crippling to Ukraine's economy long term.
Yeah, one of the big things for Ukraine was not making sure that none of the language inside was about Ukraine giving these minerals as a payment for weapons or anything. This is about our partnership going forward. And again, it's going to be a win-win going forward. The other big thing is, as soon as this agreement dropped, we saw that direct military sales of weapons were authorized for Ukraine. That's a big deal because that's something that the Trump administration has not done yet during its term.
Hopefully it makes a larger deal, ceasefire deal and the like, more likely. There was an interesting moment we had the town hall last night and the president called in and it was Chris Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith and Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
So O'Reilly asks the president a question about the Zelenskyy situation. It was interesting. Here, let me play that clip and then we'll come back and talk about what's next. Here it is.
Yeah. What were you and Zelenskyy talking about when you were nose to nose in the Vatican?
I was telling him that it's a very good thing if we can produce a deal that you sign it, because Russia is much bigger and much stronger. Russia is just chugging forward.
All right, so we do have the minerals deal. Now we'll see what's next. But this idea, Russia's big and strong, and Ukraine needs to kind of maybe not give in, but make a deal. There's the president, by the way, walking over to the plane. That's live from Joint Base Andrews. What did you make of the argument he just made?
Well, first of all, leave it to Bill to ask something about the Catholic Church in the middle of a discussion. It was a great town hall. But what also was good is the fact that these two men spoke with each other face to face, and we didn't have anybody yelling on the outside. They got to an agreement. It's clear that was what was needed, a clear communication between these two people. What's going to go happen after this? The military sales are one thing, but I want to point out that since President Trump announced that he wanted a ceasefire on March 11th, there have been over 8,500 bombs dropped on Ukraine, 200 rockets, and about 600 drones. This is what Putin is doing in defiance of Trump. So every time you see Vladimir stop, just understand that every day Vladimir Putin is in defiance of President Trump as opposed to President Zelenskyy.
Do you feel like you're getting closer, though, to getting the larger deal at this point? Does the minerals kind of push in that direction that we might actually get something here? For all the back and forth and all the talk, and whoever side Trump has been on or what was said leading up, are we going to get something out of this? We might.
It's clear that the people who are wanting to help Ukraine, including Secretary of State and now acting National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, wanted Ukraine to sign this deal, thinks that there are more partnerships to come with Ukraine in the future. And if that's the case, then all forward.
Right. So that not all's forgotten necessarily, but Ukraine has to be practical in all of this too. I think it's sort of what the president is getting at, kind of in his own way there. And I know that the Ukraine's position is, well, you put way too much pressure on us and not enough pressure on Putin. But at the end of the day, you got to get to a deal somehow.
Well, and the deal starts with a ceasefire. So President Putin just announced that he wants a ceasefire next week, but it's not a full ceasefire.
Yeah, that 3-day thing.
Yeah, we just saw what happened over Easter. He announced a ceasefire, and then numerous civilian targets were attacked during that ceasefire. So Ukraine has, every time that Putin says something, Ukraine is like, 30 days. Let's do it the way Trump wants to do it. That's not what's happening out of the Kremlin.
Maybe he will. We'll see, because he's hearing from some Republicans. Like, I'll put this up from the Wall Street Journal as a final point. Trump ally Lindsey Graham, they write, pushes Russia crackdown, which would impose primary and secondary sanctions against Russia and countries that back Russia's aggression in Ukraine if the Russian government refuses to negotiate a peace agreement, violates a peace agreement, or invades Ukraine again in the future. So
Lindsey Graham has always been in favor of triggers. He said, why don't we put a deal on for Ukraine? If Russia goes further, then you get NATO. This thing about the sanctions was started last September. They already have 60 co-sponsors in this new Senate. They're ready to go with this. And I'm sure Mike Johnson is ready to go with a similar bill. The quicker we can act tough and forcefully with Russia, I think only then are we going to get to the we want the two men sitting next to each other, right? You want to see Trump, you want to see Putin, you want to hear Zelensky. That's not going to happen until a ceasefire happens, and for that, we're waiting on Putin.
Got to run, but I'm interested. You brought up Rubio.
Yeah.
What's the thought on where Rubio is now? Earlier, he in his career when he was a senator, he would make, you would think he'd be a very strong ally.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of clips out there of all the recordings of Marco Rubio saying very strong things about how we're supposed to work with Russia. He's still in that mindset. He's acting a little differently with the fact that he's working for the president. I think what's interesting, though, is Mike Waltz going to the United Nations is a completely different direction. I think we're going to be surprised at the actions he's going to make at the United Nations. Hopefully, if he gets through the confirmation hearing.
You're happy about that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Ukraine's point of view. All right.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.